The book of Baruch 4 and 33. For as she rejoiced at thy ruin and was glad of thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. For I will take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride shall be turned into mourning. For fire shall come upon her from the everlasting, long to endure, and she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time. All praise be unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Hashem Chakadash. All right. Shalom unto the elect, double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone, and peace to the elect. All right. Shalom to the elect. So the reason why I brought out Baruch, the fourth chapter, from the verse 33 to 35 is because what we're seeing in the East with these world leaders is a major sign of the end of the end of America, Babylon the Great, and the Western hegemony. All right, which hegemony just means basically dominance by a certain world power. All right, empire, in other words. All right, but again, all right, she was rejoiced at thy ruin, and whose ruin did America rejoice at? The ruin of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's how this place became rich, by slavery, by rape, robbery, pillaging, all right, genocide, okay, slave labor, all right. But she's going to be grieved for her own desolation, all right, which is going to come by these other countries firing missiles, okay, which they showed off just that at the military parade, which the Trump's military parade looked like a clown show, you know, a children's clown show compared to the parade that China just put on, man. All right. They look like they mean business. Okay. And you have a massive army, man. You know, last time I checked, it was, 1 million, but I'm sure that it's more by now. All right. But Baruch 4 and 34, for I will take away the rejoicing of a great multitude, and her pride shall be turned to mourning. And that's what's going to happen when these missiles drop. You have these alliances of these different powers, all right? Russia, China, North Korea, okay, Iran, all right? India is even turning on America in a lot of ways, okay? These other powers, you know, you see the alliances. You already see who's going to be lined up with who. And the scripture says in Ezekiel, which I'm going to grab it. But first, let me finish this. All right. For fire shall come upon her from the everlasting. And who's the everlasting? Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Okay. Long to endure. And she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time. So this fire is going to be, you know, for a long time, that fire is going to burn. But even when it goes out, the memorial of the fire is going to be a memorial of the consequences of, you know, crossing the Most High, Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, and crossing his people. All right, this is Ezekiel, okay, going into Russia, which is Gog, okay? Ezekiel 38 and 4. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws and will bring thee forth. And all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And the modern day sword is what? Is the modern day sword is those missiles. All right, and turn thee back. Okay, so the Lord is going to bring them to a condition of war, a situation where war is inevitable. All right, putting hooks into their jaws, because the scripture says the king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh. So the Lord controls these nations and brings them into these conflicts. Okay, so the modern day horse and horsemen and armies, you know, you have tanks, you have jets, you have different forms of warfare. Okay, different technology for warfare. All right, a great company. Okay, and they're going to be prepared, in other words. Persia, which is Iran, okay, Ethiopia, which is another ally, and Libya, another ally of those countries that we just mentioned, Russia, China, North Korea. All right, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his band. When you have a shield and helmet, you're ready for war. Gomer, Turkey, okay, and all his bands, the house of Torgamar of the North Quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Okay, be thou a guard unto them. So when you go up a few verses, I'll read the first and the second verse as well. Okay, and the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And chief prince is Ra'ash Shar, which is in the Hebrew, and that is a direct connection to Russia, showing you prophetically who this is talking about. Okay, Gog is Russia. Okay, and it says later on, we read in the 7th verse, be thou a guard unto who? Unto these other nations. All right, so nations like Iran, for example, all right, is being guarded by Russia. Okay, and this is the conflict that's brewing up, and that's why it says this in Joel, the 2nd chapter. One thing, this is what came to mind. Joel 2, or actually it's the 3rd chapter, Joel 3 and 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Okay, the mighty men. So you see those men marching along, all right, ready for the conflict. Okay, that's all those men of war drawing near, getting ready for that conflict of World War III. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So, formerly countries that would not be able to hold a candle to America, now they have nuclear weapons. They were showcasing their ballistic missiles in that parade. Okay, your plowshares into swords, meaning take money away from agriculture, from feeding your people, and put it into war. Okay, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about till they cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, which means Yahweh's judgment. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. All right, so his judgment is coming. All right, Yahweh's judgment. But here shall I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, all right, which that connects to Revelation, okay? Who's the grim reaper? Yahweh Shai. Okay, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. And that is the day of the Lord's judgment. And that's quickly coming, okay? And there's so many signs, but yet America is, tied into bread and circuses, and Americans are the dumbest people on the whole planet Earth. We say it over and over again, and that's by design. The elites set it up like that so that, people here, which mainly they're really aiming it at the Lord's people, you so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, they don't want you to be prepared for what's coming, because the Lord is coming as a thief in the night, as it is written. So if he comes upon the Lord's people in a time where they don't expect, which is Esau's design to have you, in a stupefied state, then you're going to get caught up in that judgment. All right. But our job as the hopeful prophets, the watchmen of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, is to warn you of what's to come. All right. Revelation 11 and 14, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Third woe means World War III. Okay, that's what the third woe is. And I'm going to get this in Isaiah as well. We know how that war is going to be fought. Okay. Not going to be fought in a traditional way of, there's never been a war fought like this before with ICBMs. Isaiah 9 and 5, for every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Excuse me. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Okay. And when you go into that word fuel, another word there that you could put in there is meat. All right. In other words, missile meat, what is a fuel to the fire? Meat. And a lot of times, meat, it has fat on it and things like that. And America is known to be a place, hey, did not the Lord give Esau the fatness of the earth? America is fat. America is like a fattened calf ready for the slaughter. All right. And fat is very flammable. You got a lot of fat people here too. Big backs. We always joke about the big backs. You got a lot of big backs here, and they're gonna be popping. They're gonna be snap crackle popping when that nuclear wall of fire comes. All right, so they're fattened for the slaughter. Okay, I'm gonna get another one. All right, because these other nations are gonna be destroyed as well. They're not gonna be coming out on top. China's not up next. They're just gonna be used by the Lord to destroy Babylon the Great, and basically they're all gonna destroy each other. Because the West is gonna fire missiles on the East, and the Eastern powers are gonna fire missiles on the West. Okay. Specifically America, even the EU nations are going to turn on America and fire missiles here. All right. Because they're being alienated by your president, Donald Trump. All right. Isaiah 66:15. It says, "For behold, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire." Okay. That's the Lord's judgment. All right. The Lord is coming with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to give a recompense, to give a judgment. Okay. The chariots are those spaceships. All right. For by fire and by his sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh shall be many. Okay, the slain. Going to be a lot of bodies. We just read multitudes in the valley of decision. So not only are the missiles going to get you, but Yahweh shot himself with the chariot beams. Yeah, that movie, we always bring it up, War of the Worlds. Okay, all of these alien invasion movies, the directors in Hollywood, they know about the scriptures and they know that the Lord is coming back to actually do that. But they put it in your face in a way where people, will just think that it's fantasy, but it's reality, man. This is what's going to happen. Okay. So all of these nations, man, they think they're up next. China thinks they're up next. Russia thinks they're up next. There was a conversation, and I'm gonna close this thing out. Just a quick hit. There was a conversation between they overheard. It was a hot mic. In other words, like a mic where they didn't know that they were being recorded, but Xi Jinping and Putin were discussing how technology is allowing them to live forever. All right. Immortality through the left hand. And we speak about that a lot. And that's really the next phase that they want to move to, these elites, which even Putin and Xi Jinping, they're just figureheads for the elites behind them, the bankers and whatnot. Okay. But they want to get a piece of that. They want to get a piece of that left hand salvation. And this is the vibration that's going to be pushed upon all the inhabitants of the earth. So before this great and dreadful day comes, this day of judgment, we know they're going to implement this technocracy, this beast system and it's going to be regulated, and you're going to be able to participate in it based off whether you have that mark of the beast in you. All right, that chip. So it's very exciting times of what we're seeing in the news. And for the rest of this year, 2025, we're going to have a close eye on what's happening, because there's major prophetic things going on behind the scenes while people are lost in their world of vanity here in America. Okay. And that's why you got to watch, sometimes you got to watch news. You got to watch like Al Jazeera. You got to watch news from outside the country too, because whatever they're putting out here is mainly to keep people deaf, dumb, and blind, and in a stupor, in a drunken stupor. Okay, whether it's now it's back to school time, everybody's all into this vanity, which is the fool systems, the government run fool systems, and the holiday season coming up, people all lost into that, saving up so they could buy a bunch of vanity and foolishness. That's all people really do. The most vain months, you got October, July 4th just passed. You had Labor Day. People save up every month for these vain holidays that Esau has set up for you, which is all connected to idol worship. And, they spend their last, they work their whole lives is working to keep up with the Joneses, keep up with that image of participating and being a part of all this vanity that's going on. You see, but here it is. We're talking about World War III. We're talking about the powers that are about to destroy this kingdom being risen up and being joined together. Okay, it's already, the lines are already drawn. It's just a matter of a couple more events to happen, and this shit is gonna go down, man. Even Joe Rogan said it. You know, he said he has nightmares about that. That is only a couple things to happen. You know, and they rub elbows with some somewhat powerful people in Hollywood and in that world of entertainment. So they may be hearing things and privy to things that, you know, we're not even seeing out on the front page, but we know prophecy, so we don't need to hear every conversation that goes on behind closed doors. We know what's coming. All right. And that's judgment from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, fiery judgment. All right. And you know, just continue to watch and keep your mind locked into the truth. All right. Keep your mind locked into Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. And hey, man, that day is coming, that dreadful day. You know what? I'm gonna read one more before I go. This is Second Peter. Speaking of what I just mentioned, 2 Peter 3:10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. All right, so that day is coming as a thief in the night. All right, the heavens will pass away with a great noise. That's going to be when the missiles drop. Okay, that's going to be the day of Armageddon. All right, the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Okay, the melt, you know, the great melt is coming. All right, the earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, everything around us is going to be up in flames. Right. All right. What manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Right. So if we know that everything around us is about to get burned up, then the right thing to do is to have holy conversation, godly conduct. And the godly conduct comes in the form of us building amongst each other, building with each other, being brotherly. All right. Um, you know, we speak about it a lot. We speak about it ad nauseum, but we're going to keep speaking on it because that's what the Lord set us up to do. All right. To build with the brothers, to pray to the Lord. You know, if the Spirit permits you, you do a fast every so often, not just on the Day of Atonement. All right. And you watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. All right. Paying attention to what's going on so you don't get caught, you know, with your pants down, so to speak. All right. So, you know, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Lord's will was it was edifying to the hopeful elect out there. All praise be unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Achak Wadash. Hey, shalom to the next one.